Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to basically get you quickly up to speed on key topics.
That's the goal. Fast insights, deep understanding.
And today we're focusing on Anne Frank. We're drawing from a summary of her life, her diary, its, whole legacy.
It's such a powerful story. Anne Frank, she wasn't like a politician or leading a revolution or anything.
Well, not at all, just a young girl.
Exactly, but her diary, it became this incredibly important voice, especially coming out of the Holocaust. Its impact is just huge.
Right. So our mission today really is to pull out the essential story from this summary. Her life, why the diary matters so much, even now.
Makes sense. Where should we begin? Her early life, I suppose.
Yeah, let's start there. She was born Anneliese Marie Frank, wasn't she? June 12, 1929.
That's right, in Frankfurt, Germany. Her parents, Otto and Edith Frank, were Jewish, quite liberal, educated people.
But the timing.
Yeah.
Early 1930s Germany. That meant trouble was brewing.
Absolutely. The rise of the Nazis, the whole ideology. Otto and Edith saw the danger pretty early on, thankfully.
Which led them to move.
Yes. In 1934, Otto found work in Amsterdam, so the family moved to the Netherlands.
And for a while, things were okay, more normal.
For a bit, yeah. Anne went to school, made friends. The summary mentions she was, a chatterbox, had this mischievous smile. Sounds like a typical lively kid.
Yeah.
And her first diary entries when she was around 13 were about, well, teenage stuff. School, boys, friendships.
But that normalcy doesn't last, did it? 1940 changes everything.
Right. The German occupation of the Netherlands, that was the turning point. Suddenly there were all these anti-Jewish decrees.
Look, what kind of things?
Oh, they couldn't use public transport anymore, kicked out of regular schools, couldn't even own bicycles, just step-by-step restrictions tightening around them.
It's chilling. And Otto Frank, her father, he anticipated worse was coming.
He did. He had the foresight to start preparing a hiding place just in case.
And then came the moment they actually had to use it.
Yeah, July 6, 1942. Anne's older sister, Margot, received a call-up notice, basically a summons to report for deportation to a forced labor camp.
So that was the trigger.
That was it. The family went into hiding immediately.
Into the famous Secret Annex.
Yeah.
Tell us about that space. It's hard to picture.
Well, it was hidden behind this movable bookcase in the building where Otto's business was, 263 Prinsengracht in Amsterdam.
An annex sounds maybe bigger than it was?
Oh, definitely. It was cramped. Just a few small rooms on the upper back floors. And eventually, 8 people lived there.
8 people. Who else was with the Franks?
The Van Pels family, Herman, August, and their son Peter, and later a dentist named Fritz Pfeffer joined them.
8 people hiding in those few rooms for how long?
For over 2 years. 2 years of living in constant fear, absolute silence during the day when workers were downstairs. It's almost impossible to really grasp.
Just incredible pressure. And this is the context for the diary.
Exactly. Anne got the diary for her 13th birthday just weeks before they went into hiding.
And it became more than just a record, right?
Oh, much more. She called it Kitty, personified it almost. It was her confidant, the place she could pour out everything, her fears, frustrations, hopes, dreams.
And the writing itself is remarkable, especially for her age.
It really is. The summary points out its sheer literary quality. You read it and you forget this is a young teenager under these horrific circumstances. Her observations are so sharp, sometimes funny, incredibly honest.
There's that quote, something about writing making her sorrows disappear.
Yes. I can shake off everything as I write. My sorrows disappear. My courage is reborn. That says so much about what Kitty meant to her.
So what kinds of things did she write about specifically? Day-to-day life?
Yeah, the realities of living cooped up together, the arguments, the tensions, but also friendships, like her evolving feelings for Peter Van Pels, and always that underlying fear of being discovered. But she also wrote about her future. She wanted to be a writer, a journalist. She was inspired by authors like Sissy van Marksveld.
And didn't something happen that made her think about publishing it later?
Yes, a key moment in March 1944. She heard a radio broadcast from London by Gerrit Bolkestein, the Dutch minister in exile.
Okay.
He urged people to save letters and diaries from the war years to document what happened, and that really sparked something in Anne.
So she started editing.
She started rewriting her diary entries, polishing them, shaping them with the idea that it could actually be published after the war. Incredible drive, really.
It really is. But, tragically, that
Yeah.
future she was writing for didn't happen for her.
No. On August 4, 1944, their luck ran out. The Secret Annex was raided.
Do we know how? Who tipped them off?
The summary says it followed an unconfirmed tip.
It's still a mystery. There are theories, investigations, but no definitive answer on who betrayed them.
And they were all arrested?
All 8 of them.
Mhm.
They were taken first to Westerbork, a transit camp in the Netherlands,
And then?
then deported to Auschwitz-Birkenau in Poland. That transport in early September 1944. That was the last time the whole Frank family was together.
What happened to them in the camps? It's heartbreaking. Edith, Anne's mother, died in Auschwitz from starvation and exhaustion. Otto was separated from them there.
And Anne and Margot.
They were later transferred to Bergen-Belsen, another concentration camp in Germany, and that's where they both died of typhus.
When was that?
Probably early 1945, maybe February or March, just weeks, literally weeks before Bergen-Belsen was liberated.
Oh, it's just devastatingly close.
It is. Otto Frank, against all odds, survived Auschwitz. He was the only one of the 8 from the Annex to survive the Holocaust.
An unimaginable loss for him. But Anne's words survived. How?
Through Miep Giz. She was one of the helpers, the brave people who risked their lives bringing them food and supplies.
Right.
After the arrest, Miep went back into the annex and found Anne's notebooks and papers scattered on the floor. She gathered them up and kept them safe, hoping to give them back to Anne.
But instead,
When Otto returned to Amsterdam after the war, the sole survivor, Miep gave the diary to him.
and he decided to publish it. That must have been incredibly difficult.
Immensely painful, I'm sure. But he felt Anne's voice needed to be heard. It was first published in Dutch in 1947 as Het Achterhuis, The Secret Annex.
And then came the English version, The Diary of a Young Girl.
Yes. And from there, it just exploded. Translated into over 70 languages, read by millions and millions of people all over the world. It's one of the most read books, period.
It's become this huge symbol. But the summary rightly points out we need to remember the actual girl, Anne herself.
Absolutely crucial. She wasn't just a symbol. She was a real teenager, quirky, passionate. The summary mentions she loved Greek mythology, had crushes on movie stars like Rita Hayworth.
Yeah, like any teenager.
Exactly, and she apparently disliked math, found adults peculiar sometimes, relatable stuff.
And she had a desire to contribute, didn't she?
Deeply. There's that quote, "I want to be useful or bring enjoyment to all people, even those I've never met." That's quite something for a young person to articulate, especially then.
The summary also mentions a sort of feminist streak.
Yes, she wrote very openly for the time about her body changing, about menstruation, about what it meant to be a woman. It's quite remarkable, that candor.
And tied into her ambition, too.
Seems like it. That quote about wanting to become a journalist. "I finally realized that I must do my schoolwork to keep from being ignorant, to get on in life, to become a journalist because that's what I want." It shows this real drive for independence and purpose.
Now, about the diary itself, there was some controversy around early editions, things being left out.
That's right. Otto Frank, in the initial publications, did remove some passages. Some where Anne was, let's say, quite critical of her mother, and others dealing more explicitly with her awakening sexuality.
Why did he do that?
Probably a mix of wanting to protect family memory and maybe thinking some things were too private or perhaps wouldn't be understood in the 1940s and 50s.
But later editions included those parts.
Yes, the definitive edition came out much later, restoring those passages. It led to important debates, about censorship versus authenticity and presenting the whole person.
Her story didn't just stay in the book, though. It moved into culture in a big way.
Oh, massively. The play The Diary of Anne Frank in 1955 won a Pulitzer Prize. It was huge, especially in America.
Yeah.
Then came the films.
Right.
And the influence goes beyond that. Nelson Mandela read her diary in prison and spoke about finding solace in it.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And Audrey Hepburn, who actually lived through the war years in the Netherlands herself, felt a very deep connection and was involved in readings. Even someone like Beyoncé has referenced her.
So it keeps finding new ways to connect. Graphic novels, even.
Yep, there's a graphic novel adaptation. You see references in music, like rap, murals on walls. Her name comes up in political discussions sometimes. She remains incredibly relevant.
And the place itself, the Annex. It's a museum now.
Yes, the Anne Frank House opened in 1960. It's an incredibly moving place to visit. Over 1.2 million people go every year now.
Many. Wow.
It really brings home the reality of their confinement. And the museum's mission is broader now, too. It's about education, fighting anti-Semitism, discrimination, using Anne's story to promote tolerance.
So even though she died so young, at 15,
Yeah.
her impact is undeniable.
Absolutely. She humanized the Holocaust like few others could.
Mm.
Her personal story cuts through the unimaginable scale of it all. She really did become, as the summary puts it, the voice of the silenced.
Makes you wonder what she might have become.
Doesn't it? A writer, a journalist, maybe an activist, we'll never know, but the potential was clearly immense.
The summary included some little-known facts, too. Anything stand out?
Well, the detail about her wanting to be a movie star, loving Deanna Durbin, it just adds another layer to her teenage dreams.
Right.
And the fact that she was actively revising the diary shows her serious writing ambition early on. Also, how her style matured so quickly in those last entries in 1944, and that ongoing mystery about the betrayal. The summary mentions a recent debated theory about a Jewish notary. It just shows the complexity still surrounding the story.
And Otto Frank's role after the war.
His lifelong dedication was incredible, not just publishing the diary, but personally answering thousands of letters from readers, keeping her legacy alive.
So bringing it all together, why does Anne Frank still matter so much today?
I think it comes back to that core humanity in her writing, and that famous line,
In spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart.
yeah, that line, it's generated so much discussion, hasn't it? How could she believe that after everything she saw and experienced?
It's almost unbelievable, but also incredibly hopeful.
It is, and maybe that's the point. Her diary acts like a mirror, showing us both the terrible cruelty humans are capable of, but also the potential for courage, for compassion, for hope.
It forces us to look at ourselves.
Exactly. And it reminds us, I think, about listening to young voices, about protecting truth, and about never letting fear win.
A powerful message from such a short life. This deep dive really underscores how one person's intimate record became this universal story.
It truly did. Her voice, captured in that diary, just continues to resonate.
So for everyone listening, here's something to think about, building on what we've discussed. Considering everything Anne endured, what does her belief in the goodness of people mean to you today in our world?
That's a great question to leave people with. Well, hopefully this dive has been insightful, and maybe it inspires you to pick up the diary again, or for the first time. Her story is definitely worth exploring further.